Good evening, everyone. I hope all are doing well since we last met. So, as soon as I logged in, I can see lots of good evening. And I cannot start the class unless and until I receive a few of the greetings to know that you all are here. So, waiting for your good evening rewards. And we'll start with a new chapter today, chapter 6, Audit in an Automated Environment. Yeah, that's nice now. Okay, so you are through the 5 chapters of auditing, the basics, chapter 2, documentation evidence, 3, program, and 4, risk assessment and internal control, right? 5, fifth chapter, fraud. So the first 3 chapters, they are about the basics of auditing, right? The fourth chapter is very important, related to risks, internal control. With fifth chapter onwards, we move towards specific issues. The fifth chapter was fraud, sixth chapter is automated environment, seventh will be sampling, eighth will be analytical procedures. So these small chapters uh, where you need some conceptual understanding to apply those specific topics in your broad-based auditing. So we'll move with today's chapter, audit in an automated environment. So how are we going to study this chapter? We'll understand the topic automated environment with a bird's eye view, and we'll also study what is the weightage of this chapter in the exams. Then we have our study material and this presentation to conceptually understand each and every topic. Then obviously we'll be having some MCQs, correct and incorrect questions, descriptive questions, and a case study as usual at the end of this chapter, so that we are able to understand the chapter and also we are able to practice how to apply that knowledge which we have gained through this chapter, how to apply that knowledge in integrated case scenarios, which are going to get, which you get in your exams, right? The multiple choice questions, integrated case scenarios. So we'll definitely practice one case study relating to this chapter to know where we stand after conceptually understanding the whole chapter. Then a summary of the chapter, and yes, in the conclusion of 2 sessions, I'll also tell you how to write the answers to the questions specifically particular to this chapter. So we have already talked about how we need to understand and we need to include the technical jargon and professional terms while we were studying chapter 2. How do we need to inculcate those words in our answers to make it a strong answer? Okay, so let's move. So audit in an automated environment along with chapter 4, right? Its weightage is around 15 to 20%. So I've divided this chapter into 3 parts. 2 parts will be covering today, and the last part will be covering in our next session. So the first part is the general part, general related to IT, what is automation and what are the features. To understand anything, right? We had read about SA 315, knowledge of the client's business, understanding the entity, its environment, right? And to understand any particular topic, to any particular chapter, auditing of any specific field, we need to understand the intricacies of that particular field. So first, that is something general related to automation, IT. What is the relevance of IT in audit? IT is information technology. Then we'll understand that yes, we have gained knowledge of what is information technology, what is automation. Now, if as an auditor, as a chartered accountant, I'm going to audit a particular organization, what are the risks involved with automation? So you are maintaining your notes in physical form, right? What are the risks? They may get wet, they may get torn. What are the risks when you maintain your notes in electronic form, in the folders, in pen drive, or on Google Drive? What are the risks associated? So when we move from paper to electronic form, the risks do change. So what are the risks involved when a business is automated? What are the controls we need to put in place? What are the controls we need to put into place? And how do we test these controls? So we have read about it in risk assessment, where we assess the risk, then we put in controls, and we have to test those controls as well, whether they are operating effectively or not. So we'll understand about risks and control in an automated environment, and what will be covered in that particular topic. So we'll understand what are the risks, how do we document those risks, what is the impact of you all have read about specific risks in chapter 4. Now in this particular chapter we'll be concentrating more on IT related risks and what is the impact of those risks on any organization in its working. Then what are the types of controls we need to put into place and how do we test these controls. So that will be our topics for the day. The last one is the miscellaneous important topics that would cover internal financial controls, very important from corporate point of view. Then data analytics, very interesting, and it is a topic of the future. Data analytics, believe me, it is a topic of the future. As they say, data is the new oil. And then our audit findings and all. So moving to what is automated environment. So automated. Auto means on its own. Mated means in motion. So moving in its own motion. Walking in its own motion. Automated. And what is automated environment? An environment where there is automation. Meaning, I have divided the definition into 3 parts. So you'll read with me one by one each part so that we are able to grasp the concept easily. An automated environment basically refers to a business environment. So what are we doing? We're not sitting in a park or enjoying in a park something else. We are talking about the environment. Environment, our subject is related to business. So we are talking about business environment. Okay. So here environment refers to business environment now. So a business environment, obviously, where the processes, operations, accounting, and even decisions. So what could be the processes? Processes is in a business environment, generating a particular balance sheet from the software. What could do operation? Opening of doors and closing of doors. Operation. Accounting, punching in the data and getting reports. Decisions. How using different softwares or different mechanisms, or you are using Microsoft Excel, you are using computer softwares to analyze some reports generated from them and take decisions. So in a business environment, these are the things that occur, take place. There are processes, there are operations, there are accounting, and ultimately there are decisions to be taken. All this is carried out by using computer systems, also known as information systems or information technology systems. You call it IT, you call it IS, one and the same. So an automated environment is basically a business environment where the processes, operations, accounting, and even decisions are carried out by using computer systems. That is automated environment. Very simple. Now, what are the features of an automated environment? Here we are. What are the features? So an automated environment enables faster business operations. Let us take an example. If we see it on our public places, railway stations, malls, and even airports as well, the escalators. So even if there are physical steps, it takes time. It takes time for every person, different time for every person to reach from one floor to another floor, right? But if there are escalators, it almost takes the equal time for everyone. So in the same manner, in a business environment, if there is automation, it will enable faster business operations. So it tells me that I want a balance sheet, right? What will I do? I'll take up books and I'll start preparing the balance sheet. Okay, this is a ledger. Let us put it over here. These are the entries. We used to do it in final accounts. In accounts, what we do? We do it like this. Huh? We take up ledgers, accounting adjustments, and all that, and then trial balance, then balance sheet, profit and loss account, then balance sheet, everything. It takes a lot of time. But when we have a software, we just punch in the data and it gives us reports, it gives us profit and loss, it gives us balance sheet. So the business operations are getting faster. Accuracy in data processing and computation. I've given my accounting software that you have to calculate provision for doubtful debts at the rate of 10%, the depreciation at the rate of 15%. If I'm doing it physically, I'll take up calculator. Okay, 1,159 multiplied by 10% is the depreciation on furniture. Okay, depreciation minus from the fixed assets and then provision for depreciation created. I'm doing a lot of things. And I'm a human. I'm bound to make errors. But automation is machine. There will be accuracy. Once you have fed into the system that this is the formula, this is the protocol, this is the technique to calculate this particular operation, data processing will be highly accurate and there will be accurate computation, right? Ability to process large volumes of transactions. So if you are punching in the entry of depreciation, it will take effect everywhere, wherever it needs to go. Profit and loss account from the fixed assets. You just have to punch in the entry. Okay. And you can process a lot of, think about Microsoft Excel. Those of you who are using Microsoft Excel, you might get to know such large volumes of data can be sorted, can be filtered, can be edited at one time, which cannot be done by humans. Although we humans are the ones who have developed it and we are making those changes, we are using that. But see the beauty of automation. Integration between business operations. So there is the data. If any of you knows about cloud computing, so what is it? You know about Google Drives. You know about cloud computing. What is it? Your data is maintained centrally. So you can access it from anywhere. In the same manner, if a data is maintained and at one place, or it is interlinked between various departments of a company, the business operations will definitely get integrated. The purchase department has issued a memo for requirement of certain material. In the system, it automatically flashes or it automatically mails or it automatically gives a notification to the material requisition department that yes, this is the order we need to place as per the requirement of the purchase department. So there is integration between different business operations. What are the different kinds of business operations? Purchase, sale, and expenses, decision making. So if the data is maintained in systems, those who are required to access this, those who have the authority to access it, they can access it, and they need not wait for someone from the other department to give them those physical notebooks, the physical vouchers or something like that. Oh yeah, we need to make a report. Please give us that. Ultimately, they are complementing each other, all these objectives. So it will enable faster business operations. Integration between business operations will enable faster business operations. Better security and controls. We know about this. Better security and controls. A watchman is sitting at the entrance of the factory gate or office. He might get sleep. Right? But if there are proper biometric controls, without a proper retina scan or a thumb impression biometrics, you will not be able to enter that building. So automated controls offer better security, less prone to human errors. Machines work on algorithm. The algorithm is fed by the human. Okay. And if a human is working, he's or she is bound to make errors. But machines, they are less prone to human errors. And the errors are only those errors where there are bugs in those algorithms. Provides latest information. How does it provide latest information? Because automation means continuously keeping on updating the data, whatever is there, whether it is maintained in a particular system, whether it is maintained in a network center, whether it is maintained in a cloud or a drive, it keeps on getting updated if you've set up proper controls. Connectivity and networking capability. Physically, I will have to call or do a lot of stuff. But with data maintained electronically under automation, it can be connected. We can get connected to any part of the world. But there are methods where we can get connected in a particular building, within an area. You might have read about wide area network, VPNs, LANs. What is this spread? That is connectivity and networking capability. These are the features of an automated environment. Okay. So next we move to relevance of IT in audit. What is the relevance of information technology in audit? So we understood what is information technology and what is automation, what is an automated environment. Our automated environment is a business environment where the things are being done, the operations are being managed through information systems. So this was what automated environment. We understood about this feature. So we have applied SA315. We have got to know what is automated environment. Now, a question comes into mind: what is the relevance of using systems in accounting, and how is IT relevant in auditing? Why do we need to study about it? Auditing is the vouching, verification, and then consultancy, right? You are telling them that whether these statements presented true and fair view, the risks, the errors, or finding out frauds. So how is IT there? Why do we as commerce people have to understand this engineering stuff, this science stuff? Very important. IT is something which needs to be understood by almost every specific field nowadays. IT is the future. And as an auditor, our SA 315 lays responsibility upon us that once you are auditing any client, you must have thorough knowledge of his business, his operations, of his environment. And if his business working environment is IT dominated, it is automated, we cannot carry out an effective audit unless and until we understand what is the relevance, what is the importance, what is the need, what is the significance of information technology in auditing. So just be with me. So what does it say? It says, with the increasing adoption of information technology, businesses today rely on software, systems, and applications more than ever. Many of these IT systems generate and process data that is used in the preparation of financial statements of a company. So automation, automated softwares, we are using information technology. We could be using off-the-shelf softwares, or we could be using on-the-shelf softwares. We'll definitely read about this, what is on the shelf and off the shelf. Shelf software and off-the-shelf software. So these are used in the preparing the financial statements of a company, and as auditors, we have to, or as a stakeholders rely upon financial statements, and as auditors, we have to rely upon the data and reports that are generated from these systems. So unless and until we don't know what could be the flaw in these systems, what could be the risk associated with the using the reports from these systems, we cannot rely completely upon the reports generated from the system. So generated from these systems. So it is critical to understand what are the IT specific risks that could impact the integrity and reliability of financial transactions and data flowing through a company system. So integrity means data as is where is. It has not been tampered with. Reliability is we can trust those figures. They are actual, they are true and fair. So the next part, the complexity of a business environment depends on the level of automation. Very important. Higher the level of automation, higher the complex environment. If a business environment is more automated, it is found to be more complex. See, how can we see that? If a company uses an integrated ERP system, ERP is a customized software like SAP, which is used by big organizations to manage their day-to-day works, accounting, finance, HR, everything. So we have heard about accounting softwares like Tally, QuickBooks, Zoho. They are used by smaller enterprises. Tally ERP. Tally have their version of ERP as well for big organizations. So as the level of organization increases, the level of automation increases, the software also increases the level. So we have example of SAP, Oracle, higher version softwares. So more automation, more the environment is complex, and therefore it is considered more complex to audit that particular business. On the other hand, if a company is using an off-the-shelf accounting software, then it is likely to be less automated and hence less complex environment. Off-the-shelf means general, not customized. So common softwares which are available in the market for use by everybody. Anybody can use it. Customize it, we get the software customized as per our requirements. We need these specific reports. We need this particular type of format. And we also need these heads, these ledgers in our software. We need to generate invoices like this. So we get them customized. Those are customized software. Then companies derive benefit from the use of IT systems as an enabler. Enabler is which acts as a catalyst, which helps us in performing business operations to support various business operations and activities. So they are using information systems in many fields of their business. As an auditor, I am going there, I am auditing their business, I'm auditing the organization with an automated environment. So I need to understand what systems are being used, what information is being derived from those systems, and how well you can rely upon that particular information generated from those systems, keeping in mind what are the risks associated and how good are the controls. So if anybody is finding it difficult to understand any of the terms, please let me know. I am assuming that you have read thoroughly chapter number 4. We are moving in sequence. So anything substantive, controls, risk, test, any term which you feel that you are not well versed with it, just let me know. I'll take up that term as well. Otherwise, I'll be using it straightforward. So it is true that use of IT systems and automation benefit the business by making operations more accurate. This is a pros, right? Reliable, effective, efficient, right? But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. If in the same manner, with some benefits also come some limitations, which come in the form of risks and newer risks. As the technology is getting updated, it keeps on getting updated. Same is the case with risks. The risks keep on updating themselves, like the corona variant. As it was getting mutated and mutated and mutated, new variant was there in the market. The same manner, including IT specific risks, which need to be considered. We cannot ignore IT related risks. They need to be considered, assessed. Assess this, we need to research about them, we need to work upon them. What could be their impact? And they need to be addressed by the management. What is the degree of that particular risk? We can wait to address that risk, or we need to find a solution as soon as possible. Then, coming to the legal part, the compliance part, the Companies Act 2013 has given greater emphasis on internal financial controls. This is a very important topic we'll be taking up at the last of this chapter. From a regulatory point of view, directors, the managing people, and those charged with governance, including the board, audit committee, and I hope we had cleared the difference between the management, those charged with governance in the second chapter, are responsible for implementation of internal controls framework. We read about what is internal controls. Controls applied, implemented within the organization internally to keep a check on the risks, to comply with the policies and procedures of the organization. It is their duty, it is their responsibility to implement these controls within the company. Right, Charu? The moment you were typing over there, I told what is internal control. Controls means the checks put into place by the organization internally. Internally means within the organization, within their environment, to keep it to mitigate the risks associated with their business, to keep them as low as possible. These are internal controls. So these people are enshrined with the responsibility of implementing an internal control framework within the company. And as an auditor, what is my duty? As an auditor, I have the responsibility to report on internal financial controls over financial reporting. So internal control is a broader term. As an auditor, as a financial auditor, what my duty is, I have to, in the case of companies, I have to report on internal financial controls over reporting of financials. This is a sub part of internal control. Internal controls as a term is very broad. This is a sub part of those internal controls. I have to report as an auditor. I have to report on internal controls as well. But this particular part has been specifically laid down by the Companies Act that as an auditor, you have to report us on the health, the strength of the internal financial control, which include now how well have you understood the IT environment of the company, what are the risks associated, and what controls have been put into place by the company. So that is why for the auditor as well, right? For the auditor as well, it is very much important to understand IT and its intricacies. So, given below are some situations in which IT will be relevant to audit. So, we have talked about how IT is relevant to audit, right? But we need some examples or we need some real life situations, practical situations where we feel that yes, IT will help us. IT is very much relevant in our audit. Or IT has found us DOS, now the operating systems in Windows, and application softwares. Application softwares are those softwares with respect to various applications. There could be music applications, there could be your working applications, right? Like the Microsoft Office, the softwares we download from the internet, we purchase from the market. Those are application softwares. So we are using different kinds of systems and system softwares. Like we have this that Mac OS in Apple, right? So application softwares are different for Mac and different for Android phones. In the same way, there is increased use of different kinds of softwares in business as well. Somebody is using Tele, somebody is using Tele ERP, somebody has some organization has implemented SAP at their place. So one has to. You will see that once you become a chartered accountant and you're looking for opportunities, some opportunities come with the requirement of a chartered accountant specifically, where they specially mention the applicant should have working knowledge of ERP SAP. The applicant should have working knowledge. That means you will be there. You have to understand their IT environment and the ERP SAP. It is a major part of their environment, and you should be having working knowledge of that. That is where IT is relevant to audit for an auditor, for a chartered accountant as well. Okay, complexity of transactions has increased. So multiple systems, a network of systems in large organizations, in multiple MNCs, right? So in a particular country, they are working in dollars. In India, they are working in rupees. And China, they are working in yuan. So like, multiple kind of systems. There is a network of system. We have a centralized system in Delhi, and we are working in Mumbai, Chennai, Aurangabad, everywhere. So we need those transactions be simplified, because there would be high complexity involved in the case of those transactions. Higher the number of transactions, higher the number of systems, higher the number of networks, higher is the complexity. High tech nature of business. In the case of e-commerce companies, you need to understand the working model of Amazon, Flipkart, these e-commerce aggregators, the telecom companies, Jio, Reliance, VI, Vodafone Idea, right? These are the companies. We need to understand their working models, their high-tech nature of business. You are recharging from your mobile app. You are purchasing from mobile app. volume of transactions. This particular topic is telling us from what situations do we need to understand the relevance of IT in audit. In the previous slide, we discussed what is the relevance of IT in audit. There were some views. Now these are some practical situations from where we get to know that yes, IT is very much relevant to audit. You talk about insurance, banking, railways, ticketing, right? So the volume of transactions you understand. For example, take the case if you want to go for a railway booking. So you can use the IRCTC website or any other software application, or you can go for window booking. You can see that sometimes at the window you get a confirmed ticket, but online it is showing to be in waiting. From a particular station, it is in waiting, and from a station other than from another station, it is available. Real-time updation is there. The person working on the window is booking ticket for you. It is getting updated in the central server. The same moment somebody may be booking a ticket online by using the app. So you see the volume of transactions every minute in a particular city, state, the whole of India, many people would be booking tickets. There could be company policy where automation is must. Legal requirements. The Companies Act says you have to report on internal financial controls. The Information Technology Act says that. Our Information Technology Act might have its own requirements which needs to be adhered to by the auditor. Required by Indian and international standards. Obviously, it increases the efficiency and effectiveness of audit. We will see how we use IT in our audit with the help of computer-assisted audit techniques, CATs. We call that CATs. We use IT in our audit as well. IT helps us in carrying out our audit, conducting our audit as well, makes our work easier. We'll see that in the last part of the chapter. Okay. So then, we covered the general part. What was the general part? What is automated environment? The features of an automated environment, right? And then what is the relevance of IT in audit? And some practical situations will tell us, yes, IT is very much relevant in auditing as well. The second part, risks and control in an automated environment. We talk about what are the risks in an automated environment and how do we need to implement the controls in an automated environment. The first part says we have to understand and document the risk. We read about it in audit documentation that we have to document major part of our audit. Documentation is really important, every part. As we had read in chapter 2, if we are devising an audit plan, strategy, then program, and then if you are making some changes, making some updations, everything needs to be documented. Documentation could be physical as well as in electronic form. So we first need to understand the risks and document our understanding, our observation. The first part is understanding. SA 315 again, wherever you need to understand any part of the environment, SA 315 will come into play. An auditor is required to understand the entity, SA 315, its business. Now that includes IT as well. So understanding the entity and its automated environment, what does that involve? It means to understand how IT department is organized, what are the IT related activities, what are the dependencies of the business on IT, the relevant risks and controls. So you need to understand all this and then document it in an automated environment, how the department IT works are organized, who is the responsible person, who all have the access, what are the IT dependent activities, what could be the risks, and what controls have been put into place to mitigate those risks, to handle those risks. Okay. So I'm going to I've entered the entity or I have got to know about the business. Now, what could be my parameters? What should I consider in understanding the entity and understanding the automated environment? What do I need to do? I am a layman who has understood what audit is. Now I'm understanding about automated environment. So as a layman auditor, as a normal auditor, what should be my considerations to understand an automated environment? So a second part is considerations by the auditor for understanding the automated environment. What considerations could be there? So auditor will ask of the management, he'll inquire of the management certain questions. The following are his considerations when he is going to understand the automated environment of the business. So what are going to be his considerations? First, information systems being used, how, when, how many, when, where, how many systems are being used, is there a server being maintained, right? And then what are the softwares you are using, what are the application systems you are using one or multiple systems. This is how the information department is organized. What is the purpose of each system? To carry out any calculations, financial purpose or non-financial. For example, there is a computer or there's a software over there which is maintaining only CCTV cameras. That is a non-financial work. No finance is involved in that. No figures involved in that. We have maintained a screen over there and a system with it known as a DVR, which is connected to our LAN. It is using the internet connection from our broadband on real-time basis. The CCTV system is using the internet connection from our broadband in our LAN, but its system is different. Its purpose is non-financial. However, the system which is maintaining our accounting software system could be a computer, a screen attached to the computer. It is maintaining our financial data. So its purpose is giving us financial information. So I need to categorize that as well. Then what is the location of my IT systems, local versus global, like cloud computing, I told you. Wherever my IT systems are located, I have my IT system in my office and I am able to access it from outside the country as well. I am on a tour, I am with a professional work outside the country, and well, I'm able to access my system or not from over there. The accessibility, or I have some systems located. I'm a multinational company. I have IT systems locally as well as my server is maintained globally, like Google server. Do one thing, I'll definitely show you the Google headquarters video. But if you get some time, do watch on YouTube a video on Google headquarters and you'll get to know how are IT systems maintained. Like a big factory. The data maintained over there, you'll be just amazed at after watching the video. At the video. Now comes what is the architecture of the IT-based systems. Desktop based, we have desktops, client server, web applications. We are using the system on web. Somebody is giving us access over web. For example, your team viewer, your AnyDesk. You people know about what is a team viewer or what is AnyDesk? You might have been using cloud-based. So what is the architecture of the systems? I mean, cloud-based is your drives, Google Drive, Apple, Google Drive in our Microsoft. Web applications, we are logging into the system. In the case of like you're working from case, so you just log into the system of the company. You don't have a software. You might have a software installed. You don't have access to all the files unless and until you log into your system. Web application. Desktop is in the organization. You have that desktop which is containing all that information. client server architecture, where there is a server, central server, which maintains all the information, and there are computers attached to it on where we can work on that particular information. So the next is version. Your Zoom, your Apple software, your Android software keeps on giving notifications. Higher version, please update. So we need to understand if there is a higher version introduced and we are working in a lower version, what could be the risks? Windows, Windows XP, Windows 2000, then Windows, like this was Windows 10. There are versions. The same way, these IT systems, their software, they have versions. We need to understand, is the entity's work being affected by a change in version, or it doesn't impact? A change in version doesn't impact the IT's work. We need to understand that as well, because different versions carry different risks, different functions could be there. Okay. Yes, team viewer, you all know. Really nice. Then interfaces within systems. In case multiple systems exist, so what is the interfaces where you are working? Like I'm working on the screen. In-house versus package system. In-house versus package is what? So I asked my mom, I want to eat dosa today. What did she do? Okay, order. Let's go to a restaurant. Or I'll make it at home. Why do we need to go out? I'll make it at home. That is in-house versus package. I could get packaged dosa from a vendor in my city in-house. That is the same thing with softwares, with automated systems as well. You have purchased it from a vendor who deals in systems and softwares. That is called packaged software. Comes with in a package, will give this customized software, customized system within our organization internally. We don't purchase it from outside. We have got it developed within our organization by hiring an IT team. A particular IT department is there which works for us, right? So this is a difference. So there would be different risks. The packaged software risk could be quite common, but what has an auditor, I need to really understand the kind of software, the different kind of risks associated with an in-house developed software. Outsourced activity. Outsourced activity is what? Outsource, like we have outsource is what? Using the services of a third party. So I have outsourced. I have entered into an annual maintenance contract AMC with a particular vendor in my area, that quarterly you will be coming to my office, you'll be checking all my computer systems, the antivirus and the printers, any cleaning, any management, any physical cleaning, any hard cleaning, soft cleaning. You'll be taking care of that quarterly. And I require any system updates or anything, I'll not be doing, my staff would not be doing that internally. I've hired a particular organization and they are giving me services. This is known as outsourcing. I've outsourced IT maintenance and support to different companies. For example, the income tax website, the Indian government has outsourced it, given the contract to Infosys. They are maintaining the website they developed and are maintaining the website for the government, Indian government. They've given the function of maintenance support to them, the contract of IT maintenance support of the income tax website to them. This is called outsourced activity. And what do I need to consider as well? The roles, the persons responsible. So in the case of an automated environment, who are the two key persons? CIO and CISO. And obviously the data administrators who are maintaining the data. Who is a CIO and CISO? Can anybody tell me? CIO and CISO. I need answers. If the video is buffering, can you please refresh your page? Web page, please. I need answers from you. Who is the CIO? Who is the CISO? And what is the difference between their responsibilities? These are the key persons whose work needs to be understood by the auditor. I'll wait for your answers. Who is the CIO and who is the CISO before I tell you what is the difference between these two posts. Okay, meanwhile, Charu asked me about architecture. Charu, desktop-based architecture is what, like we are. Oh, good, Charu. So there is desktop-based architecture. There's client-server architecture, web application, cloud-based. Cloud-based, I gave you an example. Google Drives. Web application is what you log into a particular website. For example, you're working for a company. They have given you an access. You use this user ID and password, like we use net banking. That is a web application or mobile application, right? And desktop based is you're working on computers. Client server is kind of a computer application where there is a central computer where I'll show you in slides to come. I'll definitely show you what is the client server architecture. There is this server, which is the main computer, which is a central computer, which maintains all the data. And there are other computers connected to this particular computer who are its clients. They get their data from this server to work upon. Okay, people are guessing. So, no, in-house package software risks are quite common. We usually know those risks. But in in-house developed systems or softwares, we first need to understand those particular systems, right? So I can tell, as I took the example of dosa, I can understand, this particular eating point or this particular eatery gives good sambar or this gives good dosa. I'll order from there. But when your mother is preparing it internally within the house, okay, you tell her honestly, oh, the salt was a much. Thoda tikha tha. I need some more khatta sambar, something like this, right? So about the package software, we know what could be the common risks. But with in-house softwares or in-house developed systems, we need to understand those systems first because they are not common publicly available. They have been customized by the organization. Okay, Chief Information Officer, Chief Information System Officer. Okay. Security Officer. So what is the function of a CIO and CISO? CIO is Chief Information Officer and CISO is Chief Information Security Officer. CIO has the work of maintaining information and licensing within the organization. Whereas CISO has a specific function which is attached to the security of the data. Where is the data? Who can access that data? Who can change that data? You open a file, Microsoft Word, PDF or Excel, and it says you cannot edit the data. It is in the read-only mode. That means you can access that file, but you cannot make changes to it. You go on a web page, you can access any web page, but you cannot make changes or edit it. So CISO's responsibilities are specifically attached to the security of the data, whereas Chief Information Officer's scope is broader. The CISO reports to CIO. That is the only difference. Okay. So with respect to risks and controls in an automated environment, we first need to understand the risks and document them. And to understand the risks, these are the considerations. Okay. These are the considerations which we need to understand. On the basis of this understanding and documentation, we can move further. What could be our audit procedures? What could our plan include? Whether we need to modify our plan accordingly or program. So the use of IT will affect our planning program as well. Documentation. So what does it say? The understanding of a company's IT environment that is obtained. We obtained the understanding in the previous slide should be documented. And why should it be documented? Because for an auditor, standards and auditing are must to follow. And SA 230 says audit documentation of this understanding. Using any standard format or template, any standard format the auditor can use, he can divide the format. Okay, number of systems, the make of system, the company used. So, two systems, one HP, one Dell. Software is being used. There was one Apple system as well, but it was being used for entertainment purposes only. Financial information was within those Windows systems. So this is just a summary you have to make and keep it as a documentation with. Like you make schedules. Today we'll be covering audit, and then in the 2 hours we'll be doing accounting, and then day after tomorrow we'll take up FM and eco. So how do you schedule it? You make a timetable or you make a schedule. You divide it into rows and columns, and you make tables or charts. You can use any standard format or template to just make a crux of the information. Now coming to what are the risks associated with IT systems. What are the risks associated with IT systems? Having obtained an understanding of the IT systems and the automated environment of a company, now the auditor should understand the risks that arise from the use of IT systems. We have understood what is IT system. Just relate it to something like, okay, so you are passing through in your colony or your society, or you're just walking nearby, and you see a heap of garbage lying nearby. So what have you understood? You have understood that there are hygiene issues in this area. There is an issue of garbage not being picked up by the authorities or cleanliness in the area. You have understood that? Now, you further think of the risks associated: malaria, dengue, foul smell, which will hamper your peaceful living in that particular area. So I understand one situation first, and then I understand the risks associated with that particular situation. In the same manner, I have understood what an automated environment is. In general, what is an automated environment? Now, the client whose controls, whose financials I have to audit, I specifically understand his automated environment. I basically gain an understanding of his automated environment. And further, now I will come to a conclusion of what could be the risks associated with an IT environment in general and with a particular client. So, what could be the risks? The first risk: there could be inaccurate processing of data or processing of inaccurate data, or both. Please, faster. Just tell me the difference between these two terms: inaccurate processing of data and processing inaccurate data. Come up with your answers. I'm waiting for your answers. What is the difference between these two things? These two terms? Inaccurate processing of data, processing inaccurate data, or both. If you understand the meaning of those things, we'll understand what is both. Okay. Wrong information and wrongly recording information. Fine. Vivek, good. Yes, Charu, really good. So in the first situation, what would you say? What could the machine, what could the system, what could the algorithm do? It could process the data inaccurately. If I say what is 3 plus 2, it could say 6. I haven't asked what is 3 multiplied by 2. I've asked what is 3 plus 2. It should have been 5, but it is inaccurately processing the data. It says 3 plus 2 is 6. So this could be the risk. Although I'm taking a very light example, but to understand the concept, we need to take such light example. And the second case, processing inaccurate data. So when we are adding 3 plus 2, instead it should have been 3 plus 3. It is 3 plus 2. It is giving us the right result 5. But the data is wrong. In the first case, the data is correct, but there is error in processing. Okay, the data is correct, but there is error in processing of the data. In the second case, the data itself is wrong, the processing is okay. The data itself is wrong. Both are being given by the system. There is data in the system and the system is processing it. There could be discrepancy at any level. So it could be an error with the data in the system, or while processing of the data, or both ways. I wanted 3 plus 3, and the system said 3 multiplied by 3. So this is inaccurate processing of data. I wanted 3 plus 3. The system is doing 3 plus 2. This is processing of inaccurate data. I hope the difference is clear, or there could be both. I wanted 3 plus 3. It is giving me 3 multiplied by 2. The data is also inaccurate and the processing is also inaccurate. So there is a major malfunction with the algorithm. So inaccurate processing of data or processing of inaccurate data, or there could be both. This is one kind of risk that could be associated with the system. Depends how well your systems have been incorporated, how well they have been developed, and we test those systems. So what as an auditor I do when I go for audits? As an auditor, I sit on the system and I give them some commands, some fake commands, some commands, and I check for it. What error message does the system give it to me? If I punch in some wrong data, does it process that data, or it gives me an error message? So I'll check, yes, the system is good. But if it follows my command and gives me results, I would say, what is your system doing? I'm giving it a wrong command and it is processing it. So there is compromise with the controls. Second part, unauthorized access to the data. So proper controls, if are there, a person who has access to the data should be properly authorized. Nobody should be walking into my office and can access any data on the computer. My employees would stop him. You are not authorized to use our systems. One of us employees would be sitting on the system, and you can sit with us. You cannot work on our system. You're not authorized to access to the data maintained in our system. Within the organization itself, there are different level of authorizations. If you see any of your friends, siblings, or in your family, someone is working in a bank, you can get this knowledge from them that a person executes a command, the other cross checks it, and a third person approves it. This is the chain, the layers of security. So even if someone has got unauthorized access, it gets reverted at the second layer. So there should be I need to understand as an auditor who are all the persons who have authorization to access particular kinds of data. Decision making data should be available to the top level management only. Clerical level data, sorting of the returns, the accounting data, the bills, the invoices, they should be available to the lower management. They should be available to access by they should be available for access by the higher management as well. But the data authorization should be as per the hierarchy. We do not, we see the advertisements, we watch the advertisements on television. Please don't share your OTPs. Please don't share your debit card pins, because there could be unauthorized access to your bank accounts, which you don't want to give the authorization, but accidentally by giving them the OTP or PIN, you are giving them the authorization. So it is highly important, the authorization or access to the data. Direct data changes, for example, back-end changes. So there is front-end working, there is back-end working. People who are dealing with the customers is front-end working, and back-end working is people who are working at back-end in night shifts, or they don't get exposure to interact with the customer. They are working at back-end working. You will sometimes you might get an error in with your systems or your applications. You call the company, and this is a back-end problem. There is some problem with our server. A few days back, Reliance Jio Fiber, many of us got disconnection or network errors. This was the malfunction, or this was some error at the servers. So we talk to them, then we say, yes, there is an error at backend. So within an organization, who is authorized to make changes to a data at backend, to any data at backend? People are working in front of, for example, in my office, there is my staff, and they are working upon balance sheets and all, and I have the access to change it. Keeping at backend, I can change it. So do I have the authority to change the data directly? Yes, I have. But whatever working I have done, my employees, my staff, they don't have the authority to directly edit it without informing me or without taking my permission. So the auditor needs to understand whether there is a policy to make data changes directly at backend, and if there is such policy, who all are authorized under such policy to make direct changes to the data. What permissions are required to be done, sorted. Then excessive access or privileged access, super users. A person, an employee, is on such a position that he cannot enjoy a particular level of access, but he or she is still enjoying that access to different operations of the organization. This is called privileged access, super users, or access excessively to their post. There is a manager in a company and he's usually on leave. He's touring somewhere, he's touring, he's always on vacation. And he has asked his subordinate, please, this is my ID, this is my password. Whatever you need to do, you do it on your own. The subordinate who has got his user ID and password, he is a super user now. He has got privileged access. He has got excessive access, which is ultra wires his responsibilities. Ultra wires his post. Excessive access has been given to him. So this also poses a risk that he is the same person who is entering the transaction and he is the same person excessively who is approving the transaction. Where is the check? There's a big risk of fraud in the company. Lack of adequate segregation of duties. As I told you, although that particular person has access, the same person is entering the transaction, the same person is verifying it, and the same person is approving it just because of the shortage of manpower, shortage of human resources. There is inadequate segregation of duties. There should be proper segregation of duties. There should be no conflict in the responsibilities of a person, different responsibilities of one person. Unauthorized changes to systems or programs. Yeah, you might have read about it in corporate law, ultra vires. That is something which is not within your authority, which is not within your powers. That is called ultra. I used this term because this is a technical jargon, professional word to make you understand. You might have read about it in law. Ultra vires the means beyond your powers, beyond your access. Okay. Unauthorized changes to systems or programs. So it should not be the editing work to any system or a program should not be open to anyone in the organization. A person who has requisite knowledge, a person who can undo the wrongdoing, who can undo. It's not like something Word or Excel that anybody can do and undo. In the case of automation, in the case of systems and softwares, we need requisite knowledge to undo anything done wrong. So there could be proper people who have been given the authority that they can make changes to those systems or programs, right? Failure to make necessary changes to systems or programs. There was the bug in this program, this new application, this new version, this new update of the software. There was a bug. And we could not make necessary changes in time or the systems to rectify that bug, that error. This is also a risk. All those bugs or in the system or the software, all those errors should be fixed in a timely manner, right? And the other risk, the most important and the most common risk is we could lose our data, loss of data. Do we have proper backups? Or we need to establish a backup policy with the data. What in case our data gets lost, tampered with? How do we retrieve our data? You cannot control Z every time in your life. Not in the case of systems specifically. You can do it in your Microsoft Office files or other systems, but the rule doesn't apply to every system. So if something is lost, it's lost. Unless and until you have a proper backup or in a way you are able to restore the data. What are the policies for that? Has the company maintained any policy for that particular purpose in case there is a breach in data or the data gets lost? There was a fire in the organization and the computer systems got burnt. Our whole data was in those systems. Do we have a backup for that or not? These are the risks, physical risks as well as electronical risks to the data. Okay, so please repeat adequate segregation of duties. Okay, Sandeep. So there is this thing that we have 5 people in our office, and I have asked that these 2 people will be allowed to access the server. The other 3 people would be preparing the balance sheets. Okay, let us rephrase this example. There are 5 people. 2 people will be preparing the balance sheets, and the senior article would be checking the balance sheet, and he'll be preparing the audit report, and then I'll check it. But the senior article says to the junior article, prepare the balance sheet, prepare the audit report, no need of checking by me, let us give it directly to the source. I have segregated the duties, I have divided, delegated them the work, I have divided. Segregation means division of work, giving different work to different people. That work could be interconnected, that work need not be interconnected. And that should be adequately segregated. There should not be burden on one person only. If the same junior, the fresh article trainee is preparing the balance sheet, is auditing the books of accounts, himself is preparing the audit report, where is the check? That is called as lack of adequate segregation of duties because I have shortage of employees. Yes, 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 the same thing. The maker cannot be the checker, as in the case of banks we see. Okay, so let us take a break for 10 minutes and then we'll proceed further with the next part of risk and controls. So we will meet at 7:30 over here. Okay, you can, meanwhile, you can punch in your queries. I'll be reading those queries and answer you after the break. So a break for 10 minutes. Okay, everyone? Okay, everyone, we are back. And let me see what are doubts. Okay, so like in school, teacher used to chase the student, check the work of each other, or आपस में सुन लो. Yeah, yes, Charu, the same way, the same way. Then Astha, what is the meaning of super users? Surbi, privilege access, excessive access. Okay, difference between unauthorized exchanges to system and authorized access to data. Okay. So first of all, excessive access and privileged access or super users. So what is it? Excessive access. So in an organization, there are many employees, but a particular employee, 2 or 3 employees, have been given access to data to my data maintained on a system in my cabin. In my office, there are many employees, article trainees, and 2 or 3 people have been given access to data. They can enter my cabin and log into my system, or they can turn on my system and they can access the data maintained with me only in my system. This is called excessive access. So I tell the auditor, as an client, I'll tell the auditor, in my absence, I have given access to these 2 people. One is my son and another is my trusted employee. They have been given the access, although it is not in their responsibilities. It is outside their scope of work. Okay, they are not authorized, but I have given them access to my system. This is called excessive access. You have been given privileges which are outside of your work horizon, which are outside of your responsibilities. Now, what is privileged access or super users is, as I told you, that I am on vacationing somewhere and I've asked one of my employees, please use my system, use my cabin, and just finalize these reports, sign on my behalf or digitally sign them and send it to the concerned person. This is called privilege access. Super users, people who have access to everything in the company, but the terms and conditions of their employment contract, the roles and responsibilities as per their designation, their post in the organization, doesn't allow those access. Even then they are getting those access. It is called privilege access. They are super users. I will say, क्या तुम सुपरमैन हो, उड़ के चले जाओगे? Are you a superman? You can do any kind of work. You are not a machine, you are a human. That is why they have termed it super users. The users of the system who can access anything anywhere, but it is not covered within their work responsibilities or work access. They are called super users. Now, Surbi says, what is the difference between unauthorizing changes to the system and unauthorized access to data? Surbi, suppose you are entering a shop, you are going to a mall, and you are entering a shop and you're doing window shopping over there. So outside the shop, it is written pets not allowed, and you have taken your a dog along with you. So pets not allowed. That means your dog cannot enter that particular shop. If it enters, it is called unauthorized access. In the same way, if a person who is not authorized to access a system in my cabin, my office boy, my office peon, or a sweeper who comes to clean my office premises, he is accessing my system. This is called unauthorized access. The auditor does it practically. He checks in whether, when I turn on the system of this particular employee, whether it gives me a message to punch in the ID and password, or there is no security, anybody can access, just turning on the system and can access the system's data. The auditor checks it practically. What are the levels of security authorization with every system? So this is called unauthorized access. Unauthorized changes to system, anybody can access the data, they can access it, right? There is no login ID or password or user ID password required to turn on a system or work upon that system. But if somebody has accessed the system and while editing or making changes to any file or any business information or data maintained in the system software or the application software doesn't allow it. It gives an error message. That means people are able to access the data, but they are not able to make changes to the data. They're not able to make changes to the data. But even if they are able to make changes outside of their authority, they are not authorized to change the data, but they're able to make those changes. That means the system controls are weak. People who are unauthorized to change the data, they are changing the data. Anybody can come, just turn on the system and change the data. How can you rely upon such data? Anybody can change it anywhere, anytime. So that is called unauthorized changes to the data. And as an auditor, I have to do it practically. I have to check it. Whether as an outsider, as a third party, I can access the data or it prompts me for a password. I can make changes to the data and it prompts me with an error. You are not authorized, or just punch in the password to change the data. Okay? This is the difference between unauthorized changes to system and unauthorized access to data. I hope, Surbhi, I'm clear. Let's move ahead. So the next part in risks and controls in an automated environment is, what is the impact? We have understood what could be the risks. Now, what is the impact of such risks? You have read about substantive audit procedures in your chapter 4, right? So such risks, if not mitigated, what do we mean by mitigated? Mitigation of risks means to reduce the risks to such a lower level that the risks become irrelevant, or reducing the risk to the best possible level. The best possible level, we are reducing the risk. That is known as mitigating the risks. Okay? So if the risks which we have read about in the previous slide, we are not able to mitigate those risks, how are they going to impact my audit? As an auditor, I need to understand if the risks are not mitigated. And how are risks mitigated? With the use of effective controls. When effective controls are put into place, we can mitigate the risks. If the risks are not mitigated, the controls are weak, these risks can impact my audit. How will they impact? The first part, there would be impact on my substantive audit. I cannot rely on the data obtained from the system. I tested the data as an auditor. I understood the environment. I understood the risks. Then I checked the risks. Or you can say on trial basis, on hit and trial basis, I randomly checked those risks, checked for those risks, whether these risks are prevailing in the organization or not. I went to one of the systems, turned it on. It didn't ask me for an ID or password. And that means unauthorized access is there. Now I need to see whether I can change any vital information or not. So I just opened one of the softwares and changed the data with one assessee data in his bank account details. I put on my account details. so that if they file the return, the refund comes into my account. Whether I can do this or not, I'm just checking it. I'm doing it on a draft basis, no, random basis. And yes, I'm able to do it. Unauthorized changes. I'm not. How can I change somebody's data and maintain the system? Somebody can come into my office, they can open the software, the computer, and they can make changes in the data. They can put in, they can edit, they can replace the bank details of the assessee with their bank details. So that while filing the return, refund comes into their data, their account. Such a blunder it is on my part. If I'm able to do this all at the client's place, I say, Bhaiya, I cannot rely upon your data. I cannot rely on the data obtained from your systems, because anybody can access it, anybody can change the data. How can I'll be able to rely on this data? Somebody might have changed it. It might not have been in its original form. I'll extract the data on my workings, on the basis of my workings. I cannot rely upon the data obtained from your system. My audit is affected, my working is increased. System data and reports should be tested substantively for completeness and accuracy. With the customized accounting software, I pass a journal entry for bad debts. And I need to see whether the ledger of debtors gets reduced by that amount and my profit also gets reduced by that amount or not. Whether the automation is working properly or it is giving me incomplete information. So I have to check it. The accuracy, whether the data is accurate, the processing of data is accurate, I have to check it on my own. More audit evidence is needed. So what does it say? I cannot rely upon the data obtained from the system. You have given me this trial balance, this workings and all that. I cannot rely upon this. Your controls are weak, man. I'll check my way your data substantively to check whether the data is complete and accurate. And if it is not complete or accurate, you'll have to put controls in place. You'll have to give me complete data and accurate data. And again, my audit programs get edited, my work gets increased, and I need more audit evidence to substantiate my opinion. So if risk not mitigated, my audit gets impacted, and this is the work in my audit which gets increased. The first effect is on my audit as an auditor. The second effect is on the controls. Obviously, if I have done, I'm not relying upon their data. That means the controls are weak. How can I rely upon the controls? If the watchman is letting enter anybody the premises without asking who are you, what is your work, that means controls are weak. Anybody can walk into the organization, the factory or the office premises. Anybody can access the data, take important files with them. In the same way, I cannot rely upon the automated controls or the calculations made by their system or software, which has been built into their applications. I've tested them and it is giving me wrong results. So I've come to a conclusion that controls are weak and I cannot rely upon the controls as well. Cannot rely on IT dependent manual controls. So there are some automated controls and there are these controls which are dependent upon IT. Humans use systems. So there are controls put into place by humans using IT, information technology systems. There will be a problem with that as well. System data and reports should be tested substantively for completeness and accuracy. more substantive work, audit work is in it. Obviously, we covered it in the first point. There is impact on our substantive audit because there is impact on controls. Just because risks are not mitigated, the controls are impacted, the controls are weak, and therefore our working gets increased. So our substantive audit also gets increased. And finally, there would be impact on our reporting as well, because we are taking more audit evidences and will communicate this fact to those charged with governance, and there will be a proper reporting of this in our report. Our report, our audit report, our opinion will be modified. So this is what we observed, this is what we found. There will be impact on our reporting as well. So there will be impact on controls. The impact will be on our procedures as well. And finally, there will be impact on our reporting. Okay. So this is what happens when risks are not mitigated, and how do the risks impact. So what are the types of IT controls? So the controls are weak. We need to understand what are the controls which are weak. So we need to categorize what are the different types of controls in an organization related to IT systems. These are the controls. The controls are general IT controls, application controls, and IT dependent controls. So we are first covering general IT controls. General IT controls we'll find in every kind of organization. Wherever there is business automation, there is information technology, information systems being used, the general controls would have to be put into place by everyone. Every organization, be it from any sector, any industry, they have to put in place these controls. So general IT controls are policies and procedures that relate to many applications and support the effective functioning of application controls. So general IT controls are general. There could be specific in the construction sector, a company related to construction business, they will have their own software specifically designed for construction business. A hotel would have a software where bookings and room services and restaurant service would be interlinked. They'll have their kind of software with different platforms, different interfaces for each kind of facility. But for both the businesses, what kind of IT controls would be the same? The general IT controls. General IT controls are those controls which support the application controls. Application IT controls. Application IT controls are specific to each and every business owing to their nature. Okay, they apply to mainframe, miniframe, and end user environments. These are the kind of computer systems, right? So they apply to every kind of system, your servers, your any kind of architecture. Mainframe, miniframe, end user environment is the people who are the person who is using the system at the end of the chain. General IT controls that maintain the integrity of information and security of data, yeah, like your eScan or the antivirus, right? These are IT controls generally implemented to mitigate the IT specific risks and applied commonly across multiple IT systems. So they are common for every IT system, your antivirus, your firewalls. These are all common general IT controls. This common general IT controls, the use of user IDs, passwords, everything. These are general IT controls. Okay. Then hence general IT controls are known as pervasive controls or indirect controls as well. Pervasive controls or indirect controls. They are not directly related to any kind of software. They are just supporting the application software. These are general IT controls. That is why they are called pervasive. Pervasive means found everywhere. In every system, they are required, and they are indirect controls. Now coming to application controls. So application controls include both automated or manual controls, manual where human intervention is required, that operate at a business process level. As I told you, I took up two different business. There is construction business, there is the service industry, hotel business. So there would be specific. Somebody would be using a different software. Automated application controls are embedded. Embedded means incorporated into IT applications. The softwares you are using, these controls are embedded into them, whether developed in-house or purchased from an outside vendor. And they help in ensuring the completeness, accuracy, and integrity of data in those systems. Examples of automated applications include edit checks and validation of input data, sequence number checks, user limit checks, reasonableness checks, mandatory data fields. For example, you are filling a form online and there is a red asterisk over one particular column. You cannot navigate further unless and until you enter data in that particular field. Mandatory data field, reasonable check. They have asked you to put a percentage in that particular column, and you are not putting percentage. There's a reasonable check. You can only add, like on Twitter, there is a word limit. That is user limit checks. Sequence number checks. You are working in Excel and you have applied the formula of sequence. So it adds the sequence accordingly. Edit checks and validation of input data. What is edit check and validation? You are punching in some data. It asks for your name and you are writing 1, 2, 3. It will give you an error. Only alphabets allowed. This is a validation of input data. While forming income tax forms, GST forms, there is an option at the end. Validate. Validate means it will check whatever data you have punched into the form, whether it is as per the compliance. So these are automated application controls. General IT controls are needed to support the functioning of application controls. And further, both are needed to ensure complete and accurate information processing through IT system. Okay. The third kind is IT dependent controls. IT dependent controls are basically manual controls that make use of some form of data or information or report produced from IT systems. So what is IT dependent? I have to make my decision on the basis of a report generated from the computer system. The report generated from the computer system is an information system report. Further, I'll be working upon that report. So these are the controls. I need to put in the place the controls to make checkings available that whether what the report, the data, the information given to me by the system is accurate as per the data fed into the system, or there is a minor change, or there is a change. There is inaccurate processing of data. To check the inaccurate processing of data, for example, we need IT dependent controls. And these are basically manual controls. I'll ask one of my employees, please check this balance sheet as I have extracted from the software, whether it matches with the trial balance given to us by the client. So IT dependent controls are usually manual controls where we are using the system to get to some conclusions, to some decisions, and we need to check the accuracy of information given by that system. Even though the control is performed manually, the design and effectiveness of such controls depends upon the reliability of source data. The trial balance in my example. Due to the inherent dependency on IT, so where do we go now? controls at general level, application level. Now, what do we control? So this is something which is inheritive. So there is inherent dependency on IT. I cannot avoid it. The effectiveness and reliability of automated application controls and IT dependent controls require the general IT controls to be effective. So the efficacy, the effectiveness of application controls and IT dependent controls depends upon how good your general IT controls are. Because if the foundation is strong, whatever you built upon it, it would be strong. But if the foundation is weak, application and IT will also give you errors and more risks. The types of IT controls are general IT controls, application controls, and IT dependent controls. Let us discuss each of these controls in detail. First, we have the general IT controls. In detail, we have the general IT controls. So the first of type of controls in general IT relate to data center and network operations, wherever we maintain our data and the networking between various systems and between various operations. So what should be the objective of these controls? We are putting in place some controls. What should be the objective of these controls? We need to understand that the controls we are putting into place, there should be some objective in mind. These particular controls should be able to avoid such errors and mitigate these risks. So the objective of these controls under data center and network operations is to ensure that production systems are processed to meet financial reporting objectives. Whatever information the system is producing, it is processed in a manner that our financial reporting objectives are achieved. They are not compromised with. So this is the objective of controls which have been placed at the level of data center and network operations, because we get the information at this particular point, data centers and networks. The information we get over here is used to meet our financial reporting objective. So what should be the activities covered under these controls? The activities covered under data center and network operation, IT general controls is overall management of computer operations activity. Who is maintaining the computer operation? Who is doing what operation on computers? Whether we have outsourced the maintenance support or we have a person employed within our organization who is an engineer who will be taking care of all this. How are we executing the information in batches? How are we preparing the information? Let us take it in the form of, take the example of a manufacturing organization, the systems, what lots need to be prepared, at how much interval it needs to be prepared, and how do we execute the manufacturing activity? What are the backups available for us? How are we storing the information and how are we retaining it? We have a server, we have a backup at a different place. How are we retaining the data? Very important, the data center. I told you, do watch the video of Google Data Center and Google Head Office on YouTube. You'll get to know, or otherwise I'll show you in the next session. Performance monitoring. How is our system working? Is it giving us some errors or problem? And is the networking working properly? Are we able to access data from our server from a different system? Sitting on one system, if we are allowed to access data from a different system, are we able to access the data? How long is it, does the time it is taking? Performance monitoring in network operations. Recovery from failure. Suppose there was a virus attack or there was an earthquake. How do I plan to recover from such failures? Whether I have a BCP, BCP is business continuity plan. BCP is business continuity plan. My business would get affected Do I have a business continuity plan in place in such cases? Then DRP. DRP is disaster recovery plan. What is disaster recovery plan? Disaster recovery plan is how well I'm able to recover from the disasters. There was an earthquake, there was a tsunami, my systems, my building, all the people got washed away. What do I do with the systems and the building? People got washed away. So after disaster, what recovery plan I have with me? So whether it is in place or not, it is a part of the data center and network operation controls. So what do we do with the data? What are we doing to ensure the security, ensure the retention of data, and maintain the performance or network operation? Help desk functions. So if there is any problem with the data retention or accessing the data, what are the functions available? Whether there is a person or there is a proper department who is recording it, monitoring it, and tracking the complaints, user complaints. Service level agreement. So if we have developed a service level agreement with a third party that you will be giving us this particular service. So I'll see what is the documentation required. Are they coming in? We ask them. I ask someone to please hire EMC with an outside vendor, and that particular company, our service level agreement says your people will visit quarterly, my office quarterly, and check for any lapses in the data center and network operation control. So as an auditor, I'll have to make sure that those particular persons are coming in. There are reports, there is documentation, there is operation manuals they have given, there is service reports that yes, the last check on this particular system was made on this particular date. There is signature by the person present, and we checked for any bugs or any viruses or any compromises with the security of this particular system and fixed it. So these are the activities we have to cover under data center and network operation. Next type of general IT controls, program change. So there should not be any unauthorized changes, and the objective is to ensure that modified systems continue to meet financial reporting objectives. There were IT systems. We discovered that there is a need to modify the programs, the coded software, to make changes in those programs. So these types of controls should be in place to make sure whatever the modified system with new modified program is, it is still able to meet our financial reporting objectives. That is must for an auditor. What are the activities covered in the program change? Change of management process. There is a change in the management, there is a change in the roles, there is a change in the working, there is a change in the responsibilities. Has this been properly fed into the system? Okay. Such change requests have been properly recorded, managed, a track kept for such changes. If there is a request of change, the software, the system needs a change, a request for the change, for modification in the program, in the system software, in the system is made by the person working on that system. You record, manage, and track such requests. Change. So while making changes to your software, your data, or your system, you analyze such change, design a proper change, and develop such change, embed such change into the system, put in such change into the system. Now we have defined a management process, right? If there is a change in roles, we have to define that. If there is a change required, how are you managing such change? Define what would be covered in the change, what person would be responsible for such change, and how are they going to execute such changes, which are required in the programs to be made. The programs we are working upon in the organization, what changes we require to be made in those programs. We keep a track record of such requests. We make changes. Then we test such changes. We have a test plan. We test such case and then we apply it. For example, one of my person from my company said that whenever I print a report, there should be my name as a footer on the physical report. But I am putting it as a footer. My name, Vipul Sabu, should be there on the footer. But when I print that particular report, my name does not display upon the page as a footer. There is a bug or there is an error with this particular command. And I find more such errors in the system or in the software. I ask for the IT team that please, this needs to be changed. So I have made a request. They will make a change and then they will test a change. Well, they'll ask me, okay, now print a report and see whether your name comes as a footer or not now. Okay? So the name comes. Right? Apply changes in production. Okay? Then we have test the change. Now, after the change has passed the test, whatever change we made in the program or in the software, it has passed the test. Now we apply such changes in our system. Information production or whatever activity, business operation, we wanted to apply that change. And we should make a room for emergency and minor changes as well. So for emergency and minor changes, for emergency changes, there should be proper staff involved. There should be proper help involved. We require an emergency change in the system. Otherwise, we'll incur losses or there will be a problem for us. So every kind of change, there should be documentation. There should be technical manuals and training should be given to the users how to cope up with the changes. So UAT is user acceptance testing. What is user acceptance testing? They tell me that now, are you satisfied? The report, your name is being printed on the report which you are getting from the system. I say, yes, I accept this change. I accept the test. It has passed my acceptance. The UAT is user acceptance testing, where you ask the user, the change made is okay. For example, the dosa, which we took up as an example in the past, I asked my mom, if the dosa is not good, will we be able to make changes to it? You say, yes, define the process. Okay, you make dosa. I will tell you after tasting whether salt is low or we need more khatta and all. So she said, okay. So she makes a dosa. We have defined it. What would be the course of change, sequence of change? Now I make a request to her. Mom, please put in some more salt in the sambar or make the dosas more crispy, please. So she'll make that change. She will bring that dosa to me. Or let us change the example. I'm making dosa for my mom. Why should moms always cook? Okay. So I'm making dosa for my mom. And she says, okay, make another dosa. And I'll make another dosa and take it to her. And she says, yes, now it is okay. The salt is good. It is crispy and all. So how do I test the change? By taking it to my mother and asking her to whether I'm passing the test or not. And she says, yes, you're passed. This is called user acceptance testing. So the user who is using the software, he accepts that, yes, the test is good. And now the change has been made. I'm satisfied with the change. I hope UAT is clear, Khushi. The third and the most important, and I like it the most because it is the most common and it is most sensitive kind of controls, access security. To ensure that access means reach to our programs and data is authenticated. Authenticated is, how do you authenticate? By putting in a control of user ID passwords, biometrics, retina scans, that is authentication. And authorization is the person who passes this authentication is authorized. So access to programs and data is authenticated and authorized to meet our financial reporting. So every kind of control as an auditor for us in IT is centered around meeting financial reporting objectives. The access security, very easy and very easy to understand. What are the activities? You can guess it quite easily. Security, organization, and management. How do we ensure system security? Security is not only electronically but physical security as well. Where is your data server placed, which is having the data? Where are your physical files placed, in a locker, or they are in any almirah without any lock and key system? It is on the topmost floor. The elevator, the example I gave you in the case of an hotel, the access to that particular area by a lift is with authorized personnel only. Only their employee card will work on the elevator to reach that particular level in the building where data is maintained, where physical files are maintained, confidential files are maintained. So how is security organized and managed in the organization? What are the security policies and procedures framed by the organization? Application security is how their application softwares are secured. Again, who is able to access and who is able to make changes? Data security. So whether the data is maintained in a closed room, it is the room is the access to the room is via key, employee key, or biometrics. And in the case of fire, what are the arrangements for the security of data? What kind of fire extinguishers we have put into place? Have you displayed the numbers of fire control, emergency control numbers at every level of your building? So these are the small points which an auditor, while auditing for the access controls and other controls, he need to see this. Operating system security, whether they are properly secured by way of antiviruses. Network security, whether people sitting on one floor and on second floor are able to exchange the data, or there is problem with the network. Some other person, some intruder, like we use Wi-Fi, right? Some intruder is using our Wi-Fi, or using Wi-Fi, they are changing our data. They are tampering with our data. Perimeter network is network around your perimeter, wide area networks. When you search for Wi-Fi around an area, you can see many Wi-Fis available. There are public Wi-Fis which are easily available without any password. So such kind of perimeter networks. Then physical security, I said access controls, environment controls, system administration and privileged accounts, right? Super users I have already talked about. So these are the access security related controls. What is next? The fourth type of control: application system acquisition, development, and maintenance. So if you have asked for a customized software or system for your organization, or you are building it in-house, so while acquiring, developing, and maintaining that system, what kind of controls are required? So it says the objective is to ensure that systems are developed, configured. Configured means they're programmed like this so that they're able to meet your financial reporting objectives. And they are implemented accordingly. So first they are developed, then configured, and then implemented in the organization to meet the financial reporting objectives. So what would be the activities covered under them? It is related to the acquisition. You are purchasing it from somewhere else, from an outside vendor, or developing it on your own. Overall management of development activities. How do you initiate the project of acquiring it from a vendor or getting it built in-house? The analysis and design of such software or such your system, the construction, then you test it, and quality assurance, whether it meets our quality parameters. Then we convert the data, then we go live, then documentation training. Take the example of income tax website. In the year 2021, the income tax website was shut down for 1st of June to 7th of June. They said we are changing the reworking on the website. There will be a new website with improved options and operations. So no work relating to income tax could be done on the income tax website as per the Government of India. By releasing a notification, they had asked to complete all the works be completed by 31st May, because for 6 days, no work could be done on the website. So they had already, this was a part of the management. The project had already been initiated. It was analyzed and designed. It was being constructed. Now for those particular 6 days, it was to put into test for quality assurance. The data was required to be converted, shifted from the old website to the new website, right? From the data house of the old website to the new website, data conversion was required. And then what was it required? Go live decision. The government said we'll go live on 7th of June again so that users can use the income tax website. And then there was documentation training. What were the lapses? What were the flaws? And training. So you can see it on the Wix income tax website. There are user manuals. There are training videos. How do you use the forms? How do you use the new income tax website? Everything is over there. This is how the kind of controls in general IT controls under application system acquisition, development, and maintenance are covered. Okay. So what did we do? We did data center and network operations, program change management, access security, and application system acquisition, development, and maintenance control. So, risk controls and testing. Please let me know, the last part was a bit higher or tougher. So, heavy part was the last part we covered. If you want me to proceed further, this is the last topic of the day. If you want me to proceed further with this topic, this is very interesting topic, and you really need to understand the difference between the terms covered. So you might have done it initially, but I'll cover it over here. If you want me to go with this topic further, I'll go. Otherwise, I'll stop over here for today. You need time to digest those terms and whatever we read today. If you allow me to go further with this particular topic, I'll go further. Otherwise, I'll stop over here for today. We'll take it up in the next session, the second session for this chapter. Please let me know. I'm waiting for your answers for 1 or 2 minutes. If I get answers, okay. Otherwise, I'll go with completing the part for today. This is the last part. I'm waiting for your answers, please. 3 to 4 of the students have said that to stop for today. They need to digest whatever they have read. It was new for them. This is something which is really easy and you have already read about it. I'll cover it in the next session as well, but please let me know. I'm waiting for your answers from your end. Okay, majority says stop for today. Okay, this is something, this part I can cover in the next class as well. This was planned for today, but I can cover it easily in the next part session. 2 of the queries are there where they say, sir, please explain the application system acquisition. Okay, Charu, please, if you can go through that, we are acquiring a system, we are acquiring some application, or as I took the example of the income tax department, okay, we are acquiring it from an outside vendor, or we are making them to customize some work for us, some system, some website, any kind of program for us. So what kind of objectives and activities are required in that particular acquisition and development of that particular application, and how do you maintain that, right? So it says that to ensure that systems are developed, configured, and implemented. So take the example of income tax website. What would the income tax department objective would be? That our website is developed and programmed, configured, and implemented to meet our reporting objectives. That the users are able, whatever information we required of the income tax assesses, we get that easily. It is friendly for the users as well as for us. So this was their objective. So they would have, what activities would they have covered? They would have formed a team for the overall management of such development of their website or overhauling of their website. They would have initiated the project in 2020 itself. They would have analyzed the design of the new website. What would be the features available? What would be the options available to the taxpayer? Where would be these options available? What would be the profile? What would be covered in the profile? They would have now constructed the website. Given the contract was given to Infosys by the income tax department, then Infosys would have constructed the website. Consider website as a system or as a software, right? So as they are acquiring it from Infosys, Infosys will be developing for them, and how they will be maintaining. Infosys will be maintaining for them as well. Any flaws, any updates required. So now they would have to test the qualities assurance that yes, website has been developed and it is working properly. So the time frame I told you, 1st June to 7th of June, they would have tested the website, right? Then they would have shifted the data from the initial system, from the system they were working on, to the new system which they have acquired. It is something that you are working on a computer, your computer got your system got corrupted, and then you purchased a new laptop, and now you are transferring your data from the original computer, from the old computer to the new computer. Then go live, this is okay, my data is transferred, now I can turn on my new laptop and work upon my data. The same way income tax website was made live on 7th of June 2021. And everything from scratch to end and further maintenance activity was documented, and users were given training. The person from whom I have purchased the laptop, he is giving me training. Though this laptop, these are the functions, okay, and this is the touch control, and this is something. This your laptop is. You can even this has a touch screen. You can use the mouse like this. These are the controls. So he's giving me training to use that particular system. So these are the IT controls related to general IT controls under this particular system. Okay, I hope, Charu, it is clear. I'll cover the auditing testing methods parts. We'll start with testing methods in the next session, and in the next session we'll be discussing upon a case study. So please come prepared. We might have to sit for extra 15 or 20 minutes in the next session. Okay, plan your working schedules and dinners accordingly on the 18th of Feb. So I might have to sit for 15 to 20 minutes extra to match up the schedule. If asked in the exam about general IT controls, shall we need to put all these 4 points with some points, Chinnamma? That depends upon the marks awarded to that question. Okay, so usually it happens that general IT controls are not asked in detail. If asked, they will be asked in summary. You'll have to tell about general IT controls, and these are the domains of general IT controls. The domains will be asked specifically individually, right? It also depends upon the marks awarded to that question. Any other doubt, please? I'm buying your time from today for the next session. Okay? I'm buying that time, that extra time from today's session for the next session. So bear with me. We'll take up the MCQs and case study at the last. Okay? So that at least interested persons can take advantage of that. I hope everything is clear, and you can always, the notes have been uploaded for relating to today's session, and there are practice questions as well in those notes. We'll be taking up those practice questions in the next session. So any of the doubts relating to today's part, you can always come up in the next session with those doubts, right? Okay, bye-bye, good night. Yes, concluded.